Today's video is about a 90-day plan that you may be asked to pull together when you go for different job interviews, or you may be asked to pull together one when you start in your new job. Sometimes these 90-day plans can be described as a 100-day plan, but they mean exactly the same thing, which is all about what will you do during the first 3 months in your new role. And sometimes it's used as an assessment tool for employers to really see as to how you would approach your first 3 months, and then they can ask you some questions as a result of it. And should you be successful to land a job this way, at least you have your 90-day plan to start with, and then you can finalize it with your new manager when you start properly and agree your objectives. So there is no confusion as to what you need to do and focus on for the first 3 months. What prompted me to do this video is that at the moment I'm currently applying for a number of roles, and they are pretty much senior HR business partner roles. And for one of the interviews, I was actually asked to put together a 90-day plan. And it was part of a presentation where I was required to pull together my views on what this organization needed to focus on when it comes to strategic people priorities. And I had to review their strategic business plan and delivery plan. And the second part of that presentation was a 90-day plan, which looks like this. I will attach a link where you can download this plan and download the template completely for free for you to start from something. I find when we are just looking at a blank template or a blank question, it's always a lot easier to start from a template that's populated, and then you can tailor it to your own individual and personal situation. So let's get started. During the first 30 days in our new roles, it's quite important to establish presence. So what you can see on my 90-day plan in terms of the first 30 days and me establishing my presence, I've put that I would complete relevant corporate induction, relevant IT training, read relevant policies and procedures that I as an employee need to understand when it comes to working for this organization. As someone who works in human resources, it's quite important for me to understand relevant policies and procedures, because some of those questions may come up in my meetings and interactions with the business I will be supporting as well. It's quite important during the first 30 days to identify the key people you'll be working with, and it's something I often call as stakeholder map. So we need to populate our key stakeholder map and people we need to work with in our new role. Sometimes your line manager may pre-organize all these meetings for you, or sometimes you simply you're given a list of names to make contact with, and then you directly book those meetings yourself. It's quite important in those first meetings with your customer group or your peer group to really establish as to how you will work together. So the purpose of your roles, why you need to work together, that's something I often refer to in my videos as contracting piece. Problems and challenges that need to be discussed as in here and now versus some strategy and vision going forward. Meetings you need to go to, agenda, anything you need to pull together from time to time. I also like to discuss working style and communication style in these initial meetings, because it's an opportunity to really understand as to how your key customers like to work, and you'll quickly then pick up as to where you need to flex your style as well. It's quite important that you review any relevant data in your new role, especially for us human resources business partners. We are often allocated to support a particular department, and that's where we really need to get up to speed with relevant headcount, vacancies, people issues, people data, anything really that can help us and give us enough information to understand the size of our portfolios, the setup, and some of the current challenges that we can really read through some of the data sets that gets pulled together for our portfolio from time to time. It's quite important to spend good quality time with your HR colleagues to really understand the current HR operating model in place, and that will really help you understand as to what these teams can support you with and what you have to do yourself, and also for your customer group to really understand as to how the current HR model operates. It's quite important to agree during the first 30 days to agree your objectives. So whilst you will have your 90-day plan, it's quite important to really go into some of the specifics to avoid any confusion as to what you need to focus on, and for you you to not overthink. If you are an HR business partner and allocated to a particular portfolio where you're working with, let's say, an executive lead or department head or relevant director, in a matrix type environment, you will have your manager in the HR department and you will also report directly to your customer group. And it's quite important that objectives are agreed and discussed with both groups, so there is no confusion as to what you will need to do for the HR department, but also for your allocated business as well. Second month, which is from 30 days to 60 days, that is all about reviewing your landscape. It's quite important that you start influencing, coaching, partnering your relevant senior leadership team, relevant department head and relevant director. You should be in a position by then to start providing your views, because you will have had enough time to really spend some good quality time with the business, with your HR colleagues, with data sets, for you to start feeling a bit more comfortable to start providing your views, suggestions and advice to any problems they're dealing with and any solutions they may be after as well. It's also quite important in those meetings to discuss gaps, spot opportunities, and it's all about problems that they have and how we as human resources business partners add value to solve their problems. I also find it's quite important to be really clear as to what activities and actions we are undertaking and committing to action, and really demonstrate by taking ownership from the outset. It's also quite important to assess your business that you will be working with. I like to use a model that focuses on what we are running with, what we are improving, and what we are transforming. I then do relevant assessment, relevant map. I map relevant teams and activities against each of these levels, and that really then helps me structure conversations as to what needs to be put in place to really enable them improve or transform a particular team or a department. We all find ourselves starting in our new roles with a particular vision as to what we would like to do. But in any role really, regardless of the level, you will be faced with challenges here and now versus strategic challenges that we may have to deal with from time to time. So it's quite important as you are doing your business assessment to really establish as to what needs to be addressed here and now versus strategic focus in terms of priority and urgency. As we are all working in our HR department, as in we are employed and hired by our HR department, it's also important that by the second month we are in a position to start helping our HR teams, whether they are going through their own system changes or process changes or any reviews. It's quite important that we start adding value to the wider function that we are part of, whether that is by providing views or whether that is taking an ownership or leading on a particular activity. I would expect HR business partners to really take part in some of these activities and help our HR department be as successful as possible. And finally, we are moving into the third month, which is what we are going to do between 60 to 90 days. And this is all about dealing with today, but building for tomorrow. In consultation with our executive lead or director, department head and senior leadership team, we should be in a position to start creating a strategic people plan. If there is no plan in place to start from in terms of reviewing it and updating it, it's quite important for us to create a template that will really be called a strategic people plan for that particular department or portfolio you're supporting. I like when my plans are really clear and minimize any confusion as to what we are focusing on, how we are going to do it, who will do it and by when. I like to be in a position that my senior leadership team is really happy with the plan and really clear as to expectations and what will happen as a result of it. Some of these actions and activities, of course, will be owned by myself or by the HR function, but some of these activities and actions will be owned and led by the business as well. For example, there may be a people lead and a people board, and that will often be allocated to a relevant senior leadership team member to lead on and ensure certain activities are executed and delivered as agreed and as per the plan. I like to include in my strategic people plan anything that we will have to transform, anything where we will have to trigger change management process. I like to include strategic workforce planning, recruitment, talent management, people continuity, everything really that we need to ensure there is a good solid plan in place that would also cover by default engagement, diversity and inclusion, and relevant elements as well as well-being and how we manage people, leadership programs, anything really that we can come up with that's quite creative and gives enough information to people as to how they will lead people in that particular department, in that particular business. It's also important in our strategic people plans to be aware of any external trends or internal trends that may be happening in that particular organization. And I'm planning to do a separate video on current HR trends that I've noticed across the globe that will certainly have an impact on how we feel as employees and what organizations need to be mindful of when it comes to leading people, employing people now and going forward. And finally, any plan you agree with your stakeholders, it's quite important for you to consult and double check certain activities and any timeline you're committing to with your specialist teams. Sometimes those specialist teams could be learning and development, well-being, reward, workforce planning, or HR analysts team. It's quite important to agree this plan with them in a consultative way and in a supportive way to ensure your stakeholders understand as to what's available and when certain activities will be delivered. That's it from me when it comes to this 90-day plan. As I mentioned, you can download it from my digital store for free. This template I've created and a more general template that you can tweak to your roles depending on what kind of roles you go for and levels you operate at. Even if they don't ask you to pull together a 90-day plan, I think it's quite important for you to pull together one because it will clearly help you structure those initial and first conversations with your new manager, and they will really appreciate you starting in a quite structured way and for you to kind of not overthink as to what they will want from you, especially because most of our roles are subject to some sort of probation period, and we want to nail down the first 3 months to make sure that we are really clear as to what's expected of us, what our management will want, what our key customers, stakeholders will want from us, and we simply deliver against those. We may have to change some of those activities as we go ahead, as certain things are unpredictable, but in your one-to-one conversations with your manager, make sure that they are aware of where you are changing your objectives and what is really going on your end for them to be up to date. Let me know whether you've ever had to pull together a 90-day plan, either for a job interview as an assessment tool, or whether you've been asked to pull together one before you started in your new role. Let me know in your comments, your views, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.